Hey, this is Jeremy, and today we're going to be talking about cultural awareness. To start off with, we're going to go over the definition of culture. And culture is defined as it's a system of beliefs and attitudes and behaviors that are learned by certain or by members of a group. And this group can be groups of the people that share the same religion, the same language, the same ethnic background, or any type of other shared identity. So this is why people of the same religion typically share the same beliefs, because they are that is a culture. That religion has cultivated a culture. Now, you're also going to see this with school pride, such as for people that attend their college universities or high schools. The culture that they've created for their school is the attitudes that people put out. Now, you're also going to see this with law enforcement, EMS, and fire, as we share a culture. We share a shared public identity, and that we are in public services. And you're also going to see this in the military, such as the different branches of the military, and even the militaries across the world. They share a culture, a common sense of beliefs and attitudes that have helped guide their beliefs. And so we need to keep in mind that we're exposed and we're likely a member of many different types of cultures throughout our lifetime. And so this can be the people that we grew up with, this could be the neighborhoods, this could be our families. It can be any different number of things where you're essentially a member of a group, and that group has helped shape your beliefs. Now, this is where the saying "you are a product of your surrounding" comes in, because the way the way that you're brought up is the way that you're going to act. So, with us dealing with a very diverse group patient populations, you do need to kind of be aware that the way that you speak to somebody in one neighborhood may not be the same way that you can act with another, and that's just based off how they were grown up or how they were raised. So you're going to notice that if you have a high Hispanic population in a group, especially if it's an immigrant population, they may be coming from Central America or even South America. And so what this does is they've brought their culture into your environment that you're going to be working in. And so you need to be aware of their cultural practices. One that is very big and very important is going to be hands on the hips. So if you ever stand with your hands on your hips, that is seen as a sign of disrespect, a sign of hostility in many Hispanic cultures. And so what can happen is if you go into somebody's home, go into somebody's communities, and you stand with your hands on their hips as you're speaking to somebody, they can take that as a sign of aggression. And that's just because that's how they were raised. That is based off the things that they have seen in their past. Anytime somebody stands with their hands on their hips, they are being hostile, even though that's not what you mean. That can be how it's interpreted. And whenever you're out there with these cultures, that's really kind of the way that things are, is because the way that they perceive you, that is going to essentially be the reality of the situation. You being aware, you being culturally aware of what's going on with that patient population group is going to further help your ability to communicate with and help your patients. So there's a couple more cultural practices that you need to be aware of, such as eye contact. In many Native American groups and even the Asian groups, what you're going to see is they avoid eye contact altogether. And so, because this is seen as a sign of disrespect. However, in many Arab and European cultures, eye contact, even prolonged eye contact, is not seen as a sign of disrespect. It's shown as a sign that you're listening, that you have my attention. Now, you also have touching with the left hand. In Muslim and Hindu cultures, the left hand is utilized for many of the unclean functions that we perform. So that is seen as the unclean hand. So if you present your left hand, even as a wave, it is seen as a sign of disrespect. And you also have to know touching of the head in many Asian cultures, because the head is seen as the most sacred part of the body. And it's deemed as the container of the soul, so where your soul actually resides. And so if you were to touch somebody's head, you're putting their soul in danger. And so that is an important thing to understand. If you have a very high Korean, Filipino population that you're dealing with in your community, you be aware of nodding or shaking their head. So in Indian and Arabic cultures, a lot of times they will move their head from side to side as a sign of agreement, and that's part of their culture. So whereas for Western civilization, yes, it's going to be shaking your head, but for the Arab and the Indian cultures, shaking their head like this, that is an affirmation, that is an acknowledgement that yes, I agree with you. And you can also have in many Asian cultures, they may nod their head, not in agreement with you, but just in an acknowledgement that you're talking to them and that you have their attention, is essentially how it is seen. So these are just a few things that you need to be aware of, and really kind of the highlights. But you do need to be very aware of the cultures from where you work and the communities that you serve, because you going into somebody's home who may be of Mexican heritage, and you put your hands on your hips, and it's seen as a sign of hostility, and you may not be welcome in that situation anymore, in that home anymore, because they deem you being hostile. It takes a very long time to build up trust in a community, and it takes a significantly shorter time to break that trust. So if you get invited into a community and you're going into this place to help patients, at the end of the day, you do need to be aware of your actions, what you're doing, and kind of maintain that awareness of yourself and your surroundings. And use this information, use the information that you obtain and your interactions with your communities to help guide your treatments. And at the end of the day, what we're about is helping our patients and getting them to definitive care, where they can see the most benefit for their ailment. And that's cultural awareness.